content update. How did they recover the site?
Well, you're essentially wasting your time and the cost involved you getting there.
And some of these was doing 50, 100 grand a month, and now they're down to £5,000 a month, and they're like, I don't know what to do.
I think the problem is a lot of affiliates went down the route of becoming doorway pages, and that's where they're going to make their money, right? The problem is Google's always hated that.
You've got helpful content, yeah, but you've got a big part of your site that's being crawled. Once you're there, you can go hard, try and stay in your lane as best you can. Website recovery from the helpful content update. So the HCU update came along and they've absolutely crucified a lot of affiliate sites. We've waited quite a long time to do this video because we've needed a hell of a lot of data, and it's took us a lot longer than what we thought it would. It's nearly been 12 months. In fact, it has been 12 months. Yeah, 12 months and 1 week. It has, 12 months and 1 week. And we've only just now started to see consistent signs of recoveries from the helpful content update. There's still I would say, still 96, 97% of sites that we're tracking are still not recovered. Some of them have had partial recoveries. Some are now starting to see full recoveries. And we've been asking quite a lot of people that got hit with the helpful content update, how did they recover the site? So there isn't a one size fits all. No. And I think anyone who's watching this is not going to be, there's not a push button to recover your site from the helpful content update. But let's get started. So what's the number one thing in your opinion that you would be, someone comes along to you and says, I've been hit with the helpful content update, right? There's several different helpful content updates that come along. Probably the worst one being September in 2023 was probably the harshest I've ever seen an algorithm update come along. I think they went way too hard on a lot of good quality sites. So what are you starting to see from the test data of what you have?
Yeah, so the first way I would tackle it is you should be in Search Console. If you don't have Search Console set up, set it up. And then you should be looking at your crawl stats. That's almost immediately, that's what I would be looking at is, how technically, how much HTML do I have on the page? How much JavaScript do you have loading on the page? 4 errors, 3 or 4 errors, 5 or 3 errors. All of these different errors, you want to be making sure that you're cleaning up, and then also loading the log data from the server into a server file, order like Screaming Frog's version of it, or Jet Octopus, Julia's version of it, and seeing where Google at that point, hopefully you've got the pre-existing data. You might have just been hitting March is the latest update one, but you might have been hit recently. And then seeing where the crawler is kind of visiting and seeing if there's any issues there.
So let me stop you on there. It's called the helpful content update, right? And what's quite strange is the first thing that you've spoke about, which I do completely agree with, by the way, is technical SEO. Why have they called it the helpful content update when actually you're now talking about technical terms? So I'm going to expand a little bit. I'm going to basically ask you the question as, I know the answer to it is it's the cost of information retrieval, right? Can you expand a little bit of when you're saying about this, the crawl stats, the 500 errors, the 404 errors, the double 301s, if you're in WordPress, the /1000, the /feed, all these URLs being crawled. And then like you're now saying server log analysis. Very few people in the SEO industry even speak about server logs. So setting these server logs up and loading it into Jet Octopus, for example, and then seeing how Googlebot crawls your site. When you start geeking out on stuff like this and you start understanding that the cost of information retrieval of these sites that have been hit potentially could be very high. And some people say, it's an attack against WordPress sites. And it's like, it's not just an attack against that content management system, the CMS system of WordPress. It's the fact that WordPress comes with a lot of potential problems of these URLs being crawled unless you've got certain things set up in robots.txt, in htaccess, in making certain that tags or categories can't be crawled.
Even within the themes, a lot of people use free themes, and there's short links in the themes and stuff like that.
So you've spoke about technical SEO, it's the helpful content update. Can you just expand a little bit on that of what I've just said with regards to the cost of information retrieval, of why it is so important?
Yeah, so if you imagine, obviously, let's say you're trying to buy, I'm going to try and create a real world example here. So you're trying to buy a dog and this guy sells a certain type of dog that you want, but each time you go and visit that guy, he hasn't got the dog that you want. Well, you're essentially wasting your time and the cost involved you getting there. Well, it's essentially what you're doing to Google, right? So Google's visiting your website, it's saying, well, error. Well, it's just spent time and resources to visit your website and you've gave it an error. So it comes back later, error. It comes back later, error. And then what eventually happens is, guess what? Same that would happen with the guy trying to buy a dog off. You'll go elsewhere. So this is kind of what the search engine's doing is it's, I trust you once, I trust you twice. You know what? I don't trust you anymore. You've just given us crap.
When you're saying errors, are these like 500 server errors, or are you thinking like 404 errors?
It could be a whole bunch. So 301 errors, maybe it's just going to a 404 page. You can have 503 server errors where it's just timing out. There's a whole bunch of like server errors that you should just...
Yeah, I mean, what I found absolutely crazy is when we started to go into this and started dig deeper, and we got like, I think there was something like 40 odd sites that got absolutely, I'm talking 90% decimation of traffic being hit. And some of these was doing 50, 100 grand a month, like, and now they're down to £5,000 a month. And they're like, I don't know what to do. And we're like, give us the site and get the server logs being set up and let's see what the hell's going on with the site, right? So they give us the crawl stats, we load it into Jet Octopus, and you load the site into Screaming Frog, and you run an audit and HTML, the spider crawls around, 0 errors. So you think, technically my site's fine.
Yeah.
You go into the server logs, and there's URLs that have not been there for 3 years, or that are 301 in, and they're still being crawled. And you're like, and there's some ones that are in there that are 404s, that are still being crawled by Googlebot, right? Screaming Frog didn't crawl it. It's not internal links. It's nothing that's not there. But Googlebot is still crawling this 404 page. And on one of the sites, which was very interesting, there was something like 1,300 404s from Google, what Googlebot was crawling, that wasn't picked up with Screaming Frog, that when they loaded those into a 410, within 3 weeks of it being into a 410, Googlebot stopped crawling it. Then when you started to look then where it was crawling, it's then started crawling the rest of the site it should have been crawling.
Yeah.
And then the site that then, there was a cluster of articles that was well written, that was hardly being picked up. 1 or 2 of the pages was orphan pages, so the internal linking needed to be better, right? So there's like a few different bits here that you're starting to fix. But by 410 pages that wasn't even being linked to, that Googlebot was crawling, right? It then stopped them from crawling that and then started to pick up more pages. It then started to follow the pages in the internal links. You then improved the click depth and started doing all these technical aspects for a helpful content update, and you started getting recoveries. And it was like, is this a technical? Why not call it the technical update? Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's not, and I get why they call it the helpful content updates, because they see that they're crawling a page that's a 404, like the content that was on that page, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So some people think helpful content, well, I've got helpful content. Yeah, but you've got a big part of your site that's being crawled that you're not even looking at with your server logs. So I used to have a half decent technical team that was running Deep Crawl, Sitebulb, and Screaming Frog, and going, yeah, we've got a technical team. And now I'm like, my technical team weren't doing anything.
Well, another point is as well, alluding to what you've just mentioned, obviously Googlebot visiting URLs that are super old and you might not, it could also be you've built links in the past to those URLs. And then obviously those links, you've deleted the page, but the links are still there. So the bot might be crawling that page and then hitting a 404. Another element after that, so what I would then be suggesting is you've now fixed hopefully 404s, 410 or 301, depending on, if you've got links or not and stuff like this. And then what you then should be doing, because the worst part is I hear loads of website owners, I have the best content.
Yeah.
Everyone says that, right? You're never going to say I've got crap content, but I just rank for everything.
Yeah. Just a quick one on that. If when I said 410 the pages that are 404 in, if there is some links through to those pages, don't 410 them because you still want the links. Yeah. You then want to 301 them through to a page of the next most relevant page to what that link is being presented with. So don't just go and randomly 410 a load of pages. If it's got links, be 301 into them. Be 301 in it through to the next page. But yeah, with regards to content quality.
Yeah, so then I would be looking at your content and going, right, does this actually answer the query? 9 times out of 10, I can almost guarantee there's going to be fluff everywhere on that page. You know, does it answer the query? Does it follow a nice contextual flow in terms of the user journey? You know, should a user be asking this question first? If you're a gambler, you're on a gambling website, typically you're looking for probably the best deals or the best offers. So it should follow that flow of, here's the best deals. Why are these the best deals? And then it sort of continues down like that.
Yeah.
Then you might mention return to player values, all that sort of stuff. But obviously that's very niche specific. So what I'd implore you to do is you look into your own niche and go, well, what is the user I'm trying to focus on here? What is the intent of that user? Okay, let's sculpt the pages now and sculpt the headlines. Even just reordering the information, if you think your content's great, can have huge effects on that page.
Yeah, it's crazy when you start looking at the macro and the micro content of if you've got a heading at the top that's really not strictly exactly the most relevant, highest salience kind of entity and term and query to the central intent of the page, that could be further down. And one of the H2s towards the bottom, like you're saying, the deals, if that's like what they're looking for the most, move that higher up. That then engagement rate and dwell time of people going, yeah, this is what I want. And then that dwell time and engagement rate then you start looking at like nav boost and engagement signals and all the other stuff. But I want to pull you back a little bit. Content quality, I completely agree, and we can do a whole 1 hour video on that. Is you're now talking about fluff at a page level.
Yeah.
But prior to talking about fluff at a page level, so when you do the technical part, the first thing I think prior to looking at an individual page level for whether we can remove fluff is looking at a domain level, and then looking at what pages actually need to go.
Yeah.
So everyone's obsessed with topical authority. I need more blogs, I need more blogs, I need more blogs. Oh, they've got 617 blogs, so I need 620 blogs. Where actually some blogs could be merged together. It's got the same intent and it could be the same kind of page, right? But actually looking through, the first thing I would do is go export all the pages, run it into Screaming Frog, make sure you connect it through to Google Analytics and to Google Search Console. Because I want to see the internal traffic, because what a lot of people do, a lot of people load in Google Search Console, load it into Screaming Frog and go, it's getting no clicks and very few impressions, I'm going to delete that page. But actually the Google Analytics data might show the internal traffic flow through to that page is really good. And also direct traffic from social media is actually really good. Yeah. But it's not showing up as being that it's getting a lot of traffic in search impressions. So there's certain ones that you still could keep from social media traffic and from internal traffic. But generally speaking, you're loading the Screaming Frog, you're loading it, and the first thing I'm doing is sorting by impressions, and I'm looking at what pages are not indexed, right? So, because it'll show 0, it won't say 0, it just be blank. Right? Yeah. So then you start to look at those and going, is this page adding to my topical authority? Now, bear in mind, topical authority is topical coverage plus historical data, right? Yep. If it's not indexed, there's no historical data. Therefore, you're just doing topical coverage, not topical authority. So how do I build topical authority? That is not adding to my topical authority. No. So instead of the first thing doing it, like just delete it and 410 it or 301 it if it's got links to it, is this an entity? Is this a query that forms part of my topical map and semantic content network? Is this relevant to my domain source context and domain central entity? And if it is, it's not a delete, it's a complete rewrite. Yeah. Right? So at that point, then it's a rewrite and you're sorting through at a domain level what pages you're deleting, 410 in, 301 in, or rewriting.
So what I would do on that front typically, because obviously you're going to have loads of pages that potentially hopefully do have traffic and things, I would be toying with whether you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to add it as a micro section on another page, which then in time, what you can then do is obviously see if that then starts getting picked up on that page and it might help that page increase. Because at the same time, a lot of people think topical coverage is just make more pages. It's not necessarily that. It's, if you've got that headline on a page and the entities on that page, it doesn't matter if that page is just 5,000 words long or 10,000 words long, it's still adding to your topical authority.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I think that's a common misconception that a lot of people do. Another thing, a little slant on HCU, I think, as well, is obviously it's all about helpful content. or the helpful content update. But what you also have to remember is Google's a search engine, right? And it spends the majority of its money on indexing, crawling, and storing all of your websites. So it makes sense from a Google point of view to introduce a penalty that is basically saying, sorry, your content doesn't line or marry up with the content that we typically see users for this search query to be clicking on. And also, it's costing us a lot of money. Therefore, we're going to penalise you.
Yeah, and I also think that the algorithms are not as sophisticated as what people think that they are. So I do also feel, and there's a myth, and this data doesn't show this, but I'd love to try and dig deeper into it, where there's certain people that are very, very intelligent that I look up to in the industry that I would see as being, they've built out hundreds of quality sites and ranked in some of the hardest niches that there is. And a few of them have got the same conception of being that they're saying that Google are going looking at sites and they're wrapping it up going, we don't like this type of site. And if you look like that type of site, you just get brought into the mix. You become part of almost like a bad, within link building, bad link neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like you almost become, you look like this and we don't like this, therefore we don't like you. Yeah. So what can you do to not look like them? And one of the biggest parts that everyone talks about, and I do think that this is true, but I think there's lots of other things. I think it's about lining up all the ducks in a row. So technically doing everything that we just spoke about, deleting content that's not performing very well. But then on top of it, in a minute, we'll speak about obviously adding more pages that you might be missing in the gaps with regards to your semantic content network and topical maps. But trying to make certain that when you're looking at holistically as a whole, you're doing all things to make certain that you're doing well. And then another part which we can dig deep into is traffic diversity.
Yeah.
Like if you're just reliant on Google traffic and nowhere else is bringing you traffic, whether you've not got like an email list or whether you've not got a good following on Twitter or Pinterest or wherever that it is, getting that traffic diversity seems to have helped people get back. I mean, there's some out there that are saying that they've done recoveries. Again, the data, like correlation doesn't always mean causation. Started to run a lot of Reddit ads and Pinterest ads and other things, and the sites have now started to recover since they've been running ads. Now, and I'm not saying they're running ads because it's Google ads and it recovers your site, but what I'm saying is the traffic that's coming through is helping them going, I mean, there's quite a lot of impressions here, and whether it's nav boost or whatever people want to call it, dwell time, average pages being visited, whatever it is, trying to get more pages, more dwell time, more traffic through to that site is then seems to be a big factor.
I know Karl Roof mentioned a test that he did once, and it was running Google ads to pages, and he would inherently see an increase in rankings within just a short space of time to those pages. Now, in my head, that would make sense because if you think you're getting the user input straight away, you're getting user metrics very quickly then. So it would make sense that somehow those two algorithms talk to each other and say, well, actually, this content seems to respond really well for this ad. It should probably rank higher.
Yeah.
That would just make sense.
So many people talk about blogging and they go, oh, how many blogs do I need to do a week? And it's just like, well, it depends on the niche. It depends on what you've got at present. And we just spoke about content pruning. So we're talking about deleting pages that are not performing because of the cost of information retrieval. But let's talk about new articles, right? Because should we be writing new articles at the same time as deleting? Should we delete and then start writing? Because for us, we found from the data that we want to fill the gaps as soon as possible, but we also want to bring the cost of information retrieval down as well. So some are asking, do I delete first and then wait to write? I mean, for me, I'm like, no, just fix everything as quickly as possible. Fix the gaps in the content that you don't have, but be deleting the stuff that's not working and almost be replacing the crap with good and make certain it's quality over quantity. What's your thoughts on filling in the gaps and topical kind of getting a good quality topical map and a semantic content network and understanding where you're missing and trying to cover that?
So I would say just don't overthink it. Just kind of start deleting, like you were saying, and start writing as much as you can, as quick as possible, because a lot of it's all about, obviously, you want in the search engine, it'll be revisiting the site as you're doing 410s, and you might be requesting crawls within Search Console, stuff like that, so it picks it up quicker. As you're doing that, it's then visiting the site, visiting the pages again. And if you're on the fly updating pages as you go, it's kind of going, oh, we're there, this has been refreshed, this has been refreshed. And it's starting to see that sort of, obviously there's a section within the crawl stats which mentions refresh rate and discovery rate. Obviously discovery being new content being discovered, refresh being old content being updated. Now, to be able to trigger that refresh rate you won't trigger that by just changing one headline on the page. It has to be quite a big chunk of the content and things like that on the page where it goes, whoa, this is completely different to what we have stored in our archive of this page. When you start doing that, it almost becomes a bit of a snowball effect. At the same time as editing old pages, I would be trying to also maximize on publishing, 10 pages at a time, like try and publish them all of a similar frequency time, but also randomize it. So like you might just publish 10 pages tomorrow because you've been working on them, but then don't do 10 pages the next day at the same time, and just randomize it, because you want to try and inspire the bot to have to sporadically come back to the website. And obviously when you've been hit by HCU, the bot will be visiting your website a hell of a lot less. So you have to be making big changes to encourage it to come back.
Yeah, so talking about that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rhyme off now a few of these helpful content update kind of projects that people have come back with that's shown us results on it. I apologize, I'm not going to give the domains, but I'm going to go through these 5 and you tell me which one you think is the most kind of like, well, I think they're all intriguing for how some of them have managed to get it back. So when you then spoke about like big changes, one of them was talking about they redesigned the homepage, right? Yeah. They removed all they had affiliate links on the homepage. They removed all affiliate links off the homepage, because then when they started to understand and dig deep of who the user is, how can they send them through to an affiliate link when they don't even know who the person is yet, right? Yeah. So instead of that, what they're trying to do is they put a quiz on the homepage, like a multi-step quiz, but then they also had deep links like, if you're looking for this, go here. If you're looking for that, go here. And they did no affiliate links on the home, and also what it did was deep link down to further pages.
Which would have the affiliate.
Right? Which is obviously a big change. It's on the homepage. They felt that the inner pages was good enough of what they had, but they was filled with affiliate links on the home. And I don't know whether that's because now there was outbound linking through to loads of affiliates, and now they're passing more power down to the category pages and the main money pages. But then what was interesting of what he said he did is that it did, so it was a big change on the homepage. They changed the nav bar. They limited the amount of internal links on the nav bar because it was like a big mega menu, right? And then what he said he did was he did a digital PR campaign, an in-depth guest post campaign, and a press release campaign all at the same time. Because what it did was it gave a big spike, right? And he said the press release that he did was about new agency coming in that helped him with a brand new design, completely changed the way that they're doing it. They completely can change the internal systems. And I'm not saying that Google has gone and read that, they've done a new web design, but that influx has probably caused enough for Google to go, we need to come and rescore and revisit this site to see whether it was. Because we've seen certain people go and follow this route of doing a redesign. Some of them have changed the theme. Some of them have been changing from a technical standpoint, which we spoke about at the start, that certain themes are going to like internal linking to pages that shouldn't be and stuff like that. But it didn't seem to trigger them to come and do a rescore. But this velocity of quick links has managed to come and rescore it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a very similar concept to what we just mentioned about the content. Obviously, with the resculpting, I think the problem is a lot of affiliates went down the route of becoming doorway pages, where essentially they would just set up, get the user on, get them to click off as soon as possible, and that's where they're going to make their money, right? But the problem is Google's always hated that. It's hated that since day dot. It wants people who are landing on the website and potentially, getting the answer that they require and staying on that website for a little bit, rather than potentially clicking back to the SERP or clicking off to another website, which might then lead the user back to the SERP anyway. So I think that's fundamental, is affiliates changing their whole stance on, actually offering value to the end user before there's a click through. And I think there was a lot of, a hell of a lot, so many templated designs all around the external, especially in gambling, for instance. You land on the the best page, and all it is a big table, 100 odd different offers, which the reality is the user probably doesn't know what is the best offer. You've just listed them all.
Yeah.
And they're all linked out either via a hidden 301 or whatever, and you think, oh, that's great. Is it though? Let's think from a user point of view. Whereas now I think if you've then linked them through to this is the offer for Paddy Power, and then you click through and it goes to the Paddy Power page on your site, which mentions for the user context as well, it mentions why you've selected Paddy Power as the best, why it's the best offer, what are the terms of the offer, all of these sort of intricate details before you get into that sort of, right, click through if you want the offer sort of style, is offering more value, it's increasing dwell times, and then it's just having,
more pages being visited and stuff
exactly.
like that. Let's move on to the next one. So the next one is completely away from doing an influx of links. It was the one that we actually mentioned where there was no crawl errors in Screaming Frog,
right,
but there was lots of 404 errors being crawled via Googlebot, and he did the 410. He just literally improved the internal linking and 410 a load of pages that was not even being crawled according to Screaming Frog, but Googlebot was crawling it. Then had the category section that wasn't really being crawled very often, and some of them was orphan pages. So via the internal linking and then 410ing a load of pages that was being thing, boom. It was mainly the category that wasn't really even being picked up properly. There was index, but there's not really getting any. Probably page rank distribution wasn't very good. Internal linking and 410ing pages via server logs. What's your thoughts on that one?
Super important. Obviously, server log's going to tell you exactly how the crawler's in dealing with your website, where it's getting stuck, where to revisit them multiple times. I know a common one that we've just been hit with recently is there's a one called ads.txt. Now, natively, a WordPress site and most websites won't have an ads.txt file, so it's just spamming 404s in your server logs. Now, all you have to do to fix that is create a blank ads.txt, and then it moves on. But all it does is it keeps on revisiting because you should have that page. But actually, all it is, for people who don't know, ads.txt is basically just you saying where you're advertising, essentially, what platforms you're advertising on and things like that. 9 times out of 10, usually it's for AdSense, stuff like this. Media buying, AdSense.
Two more. One of them deleted 60% of the content, 60% of the articles. So he had 1,500 sites, 1,500 pages on there, and deleted 60% of the site and seen jumps. So he deleted 60% of his site, did no new links. No, didn't really change. When he's deleting them, if they've got links, he's 301 in them and stuff. If they're not any links, he's 410 in them. Deleted 60% of his site and seen a jump. If that's not telling you the cost of information retrieval is important, you've just lost 60% so-called of your topical authority and you've jumped up. It's just another way of someone being able. And the reason why I wanted to show this is because there isn't a one-size-fits-all. The amount of people that come to you saying, "Hi Karl, can you do me doing the link surge?" And that's fine. Or saying, "Oh yeah, not a problem. We can do your press release and we can do your guest posts and stuff like that." But the truth of the matter is, if they've not lined everything else up,
got the ducks in a row,
it's just you can't do it. You've got to be looking technically. Server logs. We make nothing out of saying this. We don't make it. We don't have a server log business. Do you know what I mean?
Yet.
Yeah. Go and fix technically your site. Go and get your server logs being set up. Go and delete. You don't make any money saying delete pages. Do you know what I mean? Go in yourself, look at it. You know the niche better than anybody else. Does this page add to your semantic content network? No, delete.
And I would also say what you've just hit on the head. If you don't know the niche better than anyone else, then you need to get to know the niche, because that's also, I think, a fundamental flaw and error in a lot of affiliates is they just, that has high search volume. Bam. I've now set up a website. You know nothing about it. You've did no reading of content on other sites. You've done nothing. All you've basically done is load it into Surfer or something like that. Copied a few competitors, set up the site.
I think another big one there as well is when you're saying you don't know much about the niche or the industry, people go too wide. They've got a gardening affiliate site and they start talking about gaming chairs. And you're like, you had topical authority on, and you was in a positive ranking state about gardening. What made you think you can then start talking about gaming chairs? Well, when I rotate, it started ranking. Yeah, because you're in a positive ranking state. Like you can almost, just for anyone who's watching this, when you're in a positive ranking state, you can almost write anything, right? And if Google really likes your site, it'll rank you for anything pretty much on the first page for a while until you start going too far off topic. And then at that point, you get hit big time. So people think, yeah, but I've got authority on best. No, there's no such thing as authority on best, right? You might have it for best gardening equipment, like, which is an industry and an NLP categorization, or gaming, but then you don't really then start going off and doing that and that and this and that. Big sites can do it and get away with it. But you, when you go in and as an affiliate site that doesn't have the authority and the page rank coming through to the site, doesn't have the referral traffic coming from, like some of these big sites that can do it, and newspaper sites that are getting millions and millions of branded searches every month that's coming through to the website, that they can afford to do those pages. You can't. You've got to stay in your lane and be an expert on something, and not think because you're an expert in best hedge trimmers, you can go and write about best gaming chairs. Try and keep it as concise and as you can.
On that, as well as you then have the reverse where people go, well, I went really broad and then I decided to take it all back to what I was good at and I'm no longer ranking. Well, yeah, you've burnt your bridge and then you expect to get a car over it.
Yeah.
Like, no, you have to start again now. You have to rebuild all that bridge, which is going to take time. And it's no longer, because you've basically went too broad on your categorization, Google doesn't know what category you belong to anymore. So you now need to start again and sort of say, right, this is the only category we now belong to, even if it potentially would mean rebuild that entire category, change the whole URL structure, rebuild it all.
Yeah.
Although it's still in the same category, you've given it a whole new URL structure to kind of say, sorry, all of this is now 301 redirected to that's previous gardening category in that example. It's now redirected to this gardening category and we are now in gardening.
I think another big one, and I want to try and wrap it up here with regards to recovering from the helpful content update, is if people don't understand what a positive ranking state, like I don't even know how you call it, like a straight line kind of ranking state,
Like
or
neutral.
Neutral, or a negative ranking state. You need to start understanding that the way a lot of the time you can be doing something great, and if you're not seeing the results, it's because you need to wait until the next core algorithm update. And really only at the next core algorithm update can you start changing your ranking state. And what I've started to realize, and it's been very frustrating for myself when I've been trying to recover some sites because I'm very impatient.
He's impatient, that's the problem.
Very impatient, is that when you're in a negative ranking state, you can't just go and then just go boom and back. And you generally start with negative ranking state. You've got to keep doing things right, deleting the content, sorting the technical out. And then the next core algorithm update, you might then be able to get back into a neutral ranking state. Then you're in a neutral ranking state and you might be going up slightly, a little bit, nowhere near as much as you'd like, especially for me who's very impatient. But then it can be flatline. It can be like a hockey stick, because then the next core algorithm update, all the things that you've been doing well over the last 8 and 9 months, then after the neutral ranking state can go boom, positive ranking state. And then almost whatever you do in the positive ranking state works. And you can then go broad. I'm not saying to do this, but you can go really broad. But if you go really broad again, you're then probably going to get hit again. So just try and stay in your lane, but then cover the topic as an entirety. When you're in a positive ranking state, you can go pretty hard on your content in covering different topics, news articles, and all this, and you will start jumping. Like it almost like it gives you an artificial boost when you're in a positive ranking state, probably higher than where you should be. When you're in a negative ranking state, when you go and create an amazing article, you still might only be ranking on page 3 and you're like, this site is done. But it's just you in a negative, right? You've got to keep doing it, keep plugging away, keep fixing all the problems you can to flatline it. Once you've flatlined it, and only when you flatline it, then can you start to get it back going up. And it's important that you know that, because too many people can become demoralized and quit. And that you could be quitting when you're 90% of the way there to recovery. Yeah. So it's just something that I would say for you, if you are looking at this and you have been hit hard, keep going. If you understand good quality SEO and all the pillars of SEO of good technical background and foundations, good quality links, maybe disavowing some of the toxic links. We've not even touched upon that, but disavowing some toxic links, deleting some of the content that's not working, improving upon the content, and adding to that topical authority. Doing all them things right over time will start shifting back up into a positive ranking state. Once you're there, you can go hard, but try and stay in your lane as best you can. Have you got anything else to add there for the helpful content?
I would probably also say is on the ranking states, obviously it can happen at any point. So you could be in a very positive ranking state and all of a sudden hit neutral or even swap to a negative on the next algorithm update. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden the website's going to get tanked. It just means at present, it's not liking whatever you've done in that version of the algorithm update. So just if you're very consistent with, you've set up the strategies and you think it's going to work, stick with it. Don't start going off on tangents and things like that. And hopefully it'll turn back round into a positive. It's kind of the natural flow. If you've ever looked in Search Console on bigger websites, they always go like that and up and down, but then it levels. So it goes up and then you might hit a negative, which brings you down to here. But that negative is still way better than 16 months ago when you were down here.
Yeah.
And now you're here as a negative ranking state, and then you work on it again and it sort of levels to it.
One other thing as well is go and get yourself some decent mentors. If you have been hit hard and you don't understand why, and you're pretty certain you're going, James, I don't know anything about server logs, don't come to me because technically I'm retarded, right? So do not come to me about anything related to technical SEO. But if you was struggling with technical SEO, go and try and find who the best person is, right, in the SEO industry at technical, and go and ask for an hour of the time. If it's $500, go and spend $500 because you're going to learn from it and you're going to fix your site and any other sites that you build technically. If it's you don't know what good quality content is, so semantic triples, semantic content networks, topical authority, how do you do that correctly? How should you know whether to delete an article? Maybe go and speak to Karl Roof or Corey. Go and do Corey's course. Like some SEOs out there kind of mock it, and in my opinion, it's one of the best courses that there is out there. If you try and start understanding how linguistics and semantics work, it's great. I get nothing from saying it, but like he's an absolute genius on page. That's who I'd be going to. If you're wanting help with regards to backlinks, go and speak to someone like Karl Hudson. Karl Hudson's ranked 46 different casinos online. Very, very tough industry. Mainly, I won't really speak to you, and I know you've done a lot of the course on Corey stuff with regards to one page. As an all-round, you're pretty good at all kind of aspects, but you are the expert in links. Like, you're my go-to person for links, and it's just about, at times, finding people that you're weak at and finding a mentor and paying that person to say, I need help in this. Go and find out who the best person in that lane is. Go and get a roofer to do your roof, so to speak, and a plumber to go and do your water and stuff like that, and a bricklayer to go and build your bricks and build your wall. Like that kind of attitude, go and find someone that's brilliant at schema markup or server logs or internal linking. Go and ask people in these Facebook groups, there's 50,000 people in there, who's your go-to person for this? Try and hire the right mentor of where you're weak at. And that's another way of it. They might bring something to you specifically about your site, which you might not see. You might not see the woods from the trees. You might think technically it's great or your content's great. And then the person that you've hired who's the best in their lane say, that's not great, mate. That's not very good. So that's something else with regards to trying to recover from the helpful content update. I hope you liked the video. If there's anything you think we've missed, leave a comment in the comment section.